We are going to narrate the experiences lived by Marino Restrepo, about what happens the first moment, when somebody who is dying, realizes she is dying, the moment we know it is going to happen to us. We do not know when, but we are certain it is going to happen. At the end of the video, for those who still do not know about Marino Restrepo, we will offer a link so his testimony may be listened to. During the video we also make reference to where we have extracted our information. This is the Catholic channel. Knowing how to answer is so important. This is a channel based on answers from the Bible, the Catechism, testimonies and other documents recognized by the Catholic Church. Any editing stems from Catholic collaborators.
The suffering of the soul, at a wake, funeral or burial. The information proceeds from the video, The Funeral, recorded in Maldonado, Uruguay, 1st of March, 2020. Author, Marino Restrepo. The Pilgrims of Love channel. When we attend a funeral or a mortuary, we have no idea about what is happening. Marino Restrepo reveals it to us, during several conferences. At the end of the video, we can see the origin of this information. When you go to a funeral, the person who has died could be someone you were speaking to a short time before. What is important is to realize that the next person who could die could be yourself. We do not know when it will happen, but our fate is very clear. As a result, it will be you who will soon be in a coffin and others who will be at your wake. When at a funeral, at the wake, paying respects to the deceased, it so happens that most people still live in their worlds. That is to say, that most people in the same room as the deceased will be having casual conversations. If you observe, you will notice that almost nobody is praying. That is precisely what is happening. Nobody is praying. Many will be talking about the deceased. Many have not seen each other for a while and are catching up. However, there is one thing that nobody is aware of, and which is very important indeed: the soul of the deceased continues present in the room, where everybody is talking about their things. Yes, I have said that the soul of the deceased is in the same room and, moreover, it is right beside the coffin. When the dead body is at the wake, its soul remains beside the corpse all the time. If after the wake there is Mass, the soul of the dead person will be in the church, and at the funeral, watching procedures, and then witnessing the burial. The soul of the deceased person is going through an extremely difficult situation. Not only has it fought the battle that leads to death, the toughest battle, but also faced the final judgment with God and knows the verdict. Yes, you have heard me very well. The soul had already been before God, was aware of the verdict, and knew the verdict of the final judgment. But it is living an extremely difficult situation at the side of the coffin. While people are all gathered beside the coffin, having idle conversations, nobody prays. The soul of the deceased, the dead person we have gone to visit, is suffering. During all this time, the soul is present with us, even though we are not aware of its presence. From the moment of death, throughout the wake, the funeral and the burial, it wishes to talk to us, but nobody can hear it. It is suffering because it wishes to communicate with us. Yes, I have said how much the soul wishes to communicate with us, basically because it has discovered fullness of knowledge. It has discovered many things which it had ignored whilst living an earthly life. It is now fully aware of how ignorant people are at the funeral, mainly because they do not realize that everything continues, and also ignorant because the soul has realized that one has to be prepared for the moment of their death. Yes, this totally true. A lot of people do not know that everything continues, and many of them do not prepare themselves for the moment which will happen one day. What the soul wishes is that it could tell everybody what it is experiencing, and tell everybody that life continues. It wishes to tell us that we are not doing things right. We are wrapped up in what is not real and wasting time as well as wasting an opportunity. Therefore, this soul suffers a lot because it cannot communicate any of this to those who were present at the wake, at the funeral or the burial. These people could be their children, parents, friends, neighbors, etc. We should not forget that we have mentioned that the soul is living an extremely difficult situation. Only the prayer we offer at this moment to the deceased will give the soul some peace of mind. Prayer will help it a lot in the new state it finds itself in. Prayer is the correct thing. It is not at all correct to dedicate time to mundane talk in front of the deceased when all he/she needs is prayer. It is time to rectify the errors we all make in front of the deceased. On the other hand, there are few people who pray for the soul. Undoubtedly, the soul is grateful for any prayers, because these prayers in front of the deceased give them peace. In fact, a lot of peace, because the soul has just entered the spiritual world, and this is just the same as the birth of a child. A recently born child suddenly cries, and these tears are desolate, and the baby has no idea why. The recently born child only knows that it has arrived in a new world, and a new state which it has no idea how to manage. The same thing is experimented by the soul just after death. This can be seen at a wake, funeral or burial, because the soul is living a completely new state. This is a state which it cannot fully control, because it comes from a material world, and observes that those who belong to this world cannot either hear or see them. At the beginning, and just after death, the soul tries to communicate with the materialistic world. However, it is fully aware that this is useless and that nobody is listening. As a result, it stops trying even though the soul continues both listening to us and watching us. However, there are people who have a special sensitivity towards the spiritual world. These people are able to understand what is happening to the soul and, in some cases, they even listen. These are people with a special gift. Editor's comment: for this reason, a visit to a mortuary should be a moment of silence and prayer. Everyone praying at the same time. This would be the best tribute to the person to whom we are saying farewell. This is something we do not usually do. We usually offer flowers to the family so that the coffin is well decorated. However, this is done more as a gesture to the family. The deceased does not need materialistic gifts, but rather prayers. In other situations, such as a sports event, there is a minute's silence before the match starts. So, as we have just read, materialistic gifts are of no good to the deceased. She only needs our prayers and the masses we dedicate to him, her.
The reality, which approaches all of us. We should understand that one day, we will come face to face with death. A funeral is a very befitting moment for all of us to learn. If you remember the last funeral you attended, you will remember that all your attention was focused on the deceased. You were reminiscing, talking about him, her. However, the last thing you even thought about was your own death. And, as it so happens, that at the funeral, God makes us reflect on our own death. Even the soul, which is still present, wishes you to realize that one day, you will die, and that you should be prepared. You must not be caught unawares.
This information stems from the video The Funeral. Author Marino Restrepo. Filmed on the 1st of March, 2020, in Maldonado, Uruguay. Available in YouTube channel. Pilgrims of Love. Song, CREDO, in UNUM DEUM. Instruments, Juan Miguel Lepi. Voices, Patty Ibarra Aguirre, Alejandro Barrios, Liliana Barrios, Javier Astorga, Ivan Guerrero, Maria Jose Contreras, Gisela Barrientos, Daniela Perez, Jose Ahumatawan, Miguel Lepi, Gonzalo Castro SJ, Jose Marino. Available in YouTube channel. Cantoyoracion. For those who still do not know about Marino Restrepo, we will offer a link so his testimony may be listened to. Video. Marino Restrepo's testimony available in YouTube channel. Pilgrims of Love. This is a very good version of Marino's testimony.